Oh, my children, I only hope you got your cigars before the tariffs because, yeah, the 10% tariff remains. And for Nicaragua, well, it was 18%, now 10%. Point is, cigar prices are going to go up. And all the gains from yesterday are gone. And I should have had bourbon for this thing. Guys, I am glad that you are here. I'm Tony Katz. The show is Tony Katz Today. Oh, we'll be talking about the Munchener coming up in a little bit. Let the show begin. Let's go there, Landon. So everything was beautiful. And then you woke up this morning and you realized who was in bed with you. And you're like, oh, damn. I can't tell anybody about this. I can't have any part of this. Tony Katz Today. Good to be with you. Yes, the markets have given back all the gains. Well, I mean, that's really not a fair way to say it because the market was up almost 3,000 yesterday on the news that the tariffs would be paused. And then this morning, it was the realization that, well, that's not totally the case now, is it? You still have aluminum tariffs, you still have steel tariffs, you still have auto import tariffs, you still have tariffs with Canada and Mexico, and you're keeping the 10% baseline on all countries. So, yeah. Huh. Well, that stinks. I mean, that just stinks. Did I say hello, Tony Katz? Tony Katz Today. That's me. This is the show. 833-GOT-TONY. That's how you call in. 833-468-8669. 833-GOT-TONY. Or you can reach out, Tony at TonyKatz.com. And, of course, the live stream happening wherever it is you get your live streams. We're over there, and I'm glad you guys are here. I am supportive of Trump policies. I voted for the man 3 times. I can discuss the border, and I can discuss the idea of American exceptionalism. I can discuss taxes. Oh, speaking of taxes, check out the House of Representatives right here.
On this vote, the yeas are 216, the nays are 214. The motion is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Fine work from Speaker Johnson being able to get Trump what he wants. 2 nays from the Republicans, Thomas Massey of Kentucky and Victoria Spartz of Indiana. Full disclosure, my member of Congress. They were no's. Now, this was more procedural than anything else. We've still got work ahead of us about how you get to a deal that's going to enshrine the Trump tax cuts of 2017 into law. And are we going to actually see some spending cuts in this mother? I didn't reach out to Representative Spartz. I should. I wonder if she'd be up for the conversation, be like, here's why I voted against it. I assume because it didn't have enough spending cuts to begin with. It was a non-starter. I think that raising the debt limit for these people is a non-starter, and I don't think that they're necessarily wrong. But I want the tax cuts. And so at least in pursuing the tax cuts, I'm all sorts of happy. I don't regret my vote for a moment. This concept of buyer's remorse is a lie and a fraud. Donald Trump is better than Joe Biden any day of the week and twice on Sunday. And even with every flaw Trump has, which are many and real, he's a better man than Joe Biden. Don't tell me he loves his son and he loves his family. Don't do it. Because it'll get really ugly up in here. And by the way, I wouldn't put either guy up as the role model for my children. Luckily for my children, they have me. But on this tariff stuff, I'm not down. I think it's an absolutely horrific, terrible idea. And what I heard from some is, you can't say that. You have to give Trump a chance. How dare you? You're not smarter than Donald Trump. This isn't about being smarter. This is about recognizing that's a bad idea. Smart people sometimes have bad ideas. You know, it was the political right that thought of the idea of universal health care. It was the political right. It was a heritage conversation, heritage.org, about the idea that was a precursor, a pre-runner to Obamacare. Sometimes you can have a bad idea, and that's why you put that idea up into the public sphere, and then you look at it, and someone comes along and says, the one thing you didn't think of. Someone comes along and says the one thing you weren't prepared for, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is freaking terrible. This idea sucks. And then you're like, hey, thanks, everybody. I'm just going to put this back on a shelf now. Loop. Tariffs on everybody was an absolutely terrible idea, especially when you're talking about tariffs as an idea of dealing with trade deficits. It was a terrible idea. That's all. Nothing more, nothing less. And absolutely, it has wreaked havoc. You aren't in the market? Absolutely fine thing to say. Not everybody's in the market? Fine thing to say. The Wall Street guys are having an issue? Screw the Wall Street guys. Screw the Wall Street guys is a very left-leaning sentiment. Just want to make sure we're all clear about that. However, it can be seen that the Wall Street guys don't care about things right or left and anything having to do at all with some level of theory or philosophy or morals or a mission or direction for the country. They care about what happens to them in the end. And they don't mind that things get hurt along the way as long as they get theirs. I think that could be very, very easily said about some on Wall Street. And I think some, by the way, anywhere. It's just a bad idea from Trump and his team. Tariffs were not the answer here. Focus was the answer here. Focus is now what we have on China. A focus on China is extremely important. And you are not seeing me, what's the word I'm looking for? Object to that. Rather, you're seeing me embrace it. Maybe not in every facet. No, maybe I would have done this. Well, what about that? Maybe I'd be like, oh, okay, that's too far. But so far, we are at 145% tariffs on China. Who wants pie? I don't give a damn. 145%. So what? So what? 145%, 185%, 235%. I reshare with you the words of Kevin O'Leary on CNN just the other day.
104% tariffs in China are not enough. I'm advocating 400%. I do business in China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never abided by any of the rules they agreed to when they came in for decades. They cheat, they steal IP. I can't litigate in their courts. They take product, technology, they steal it, they manufacture it, and sell it back here. Never has an administration.
400% tariffs? What would that look like?
Xi on an airplane to Washington to level the playing field. This is not about tariffs anymore. Nobody has taken on China yet, not the Europeans, no administration for decades. As someone who actually does business there, I've had enough. I speak for millions of Americans who have IP that have been stolen by the Chinese. I have nothing against the Chinese people. They brought great literacy, art, and tech to the world. The government cheats and steals, and finally, an administration, you may not like Trump, you may not like his style or his rhetoric, finally, an administration that puts up and says enough.
Right. That's a win. That's where we should have started. That should have been the whole focus the whole time. The unrest in the market is being seen as part of a larger conversation. I did a couple pieces with Newsmax yesterday, and on one of them with Bob Sellers, and I like Bob a lot, I was on with this Democrat, and they don't always have Democrats on. I always appreciate it when they do. And the Democrat was very reasonable sounding. I don't think a bad dude by any stretch. I'm not making that claim. But he was making an argument that I had to stand up to, and I wish I had had more time for. he stated that if you take a look at what Trump is doing with the markets, it's just chaos. And that's all Trump is about. You take a look at the deportations and how chaotic that has been, and the work at the border and how chaotic, sowing chaos there as well. And to which I had to step out of the conversation I was going to have. And when you're not in studio, when you're not there with people, it's not as easy. You're dealing with satellite delays or Skype delays and all that. And I said, first things first, there's no chaos at the border. Going from 80,000 border crossings a month to 8,000 border crossings a month is not chaos. One person potentially not being deported properly, potentially, because of a conversation regarding due process, which is different for people who are not citizens, which is what the court has said. The court was clear that there is a level of due process, but that there was no conversation about whether the due process exists differently based on other court precedent, based on whether you just crossed or whether we're talking about lawful permanent resident, whole sorts of things. That is not chaos. And so when we take a look at the markets, market reactions are chaos, but people knew that Trump was going to be a tariff guy. If you didn't know this, you weren't paying attention. So no part of this surprised me, and I don't think it surprised you. If you're honest, I think that how the tariffs were delivered, the formulation utilized to create a tariff number based on trade deficits and not reciprocal tariffs, I think that did. And somehow, somewhere, people have decided and devised that saying so means you're never Trump or anti-Trump, or you're not giving Trump a chance. Guys, can we just stop that? It's okay to say this presentation, this plan did not satisfy. And yes, moves in the market, as Kevin Hassett, who runs the Economic Council there, noted, the moves in the market, specifically the bond market, moved Trump to making changes. It was Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, who went down to Mar-a-Lago last weekend and said, we have to make this about trade deals. Stop talking about tariffs. If there's anything to really marvel at regarding President Trump, it is a resolve that is just stunning, and an absolute willingness to look people in the eye and say, what? Things change. So I dealt with the change that had to be dealt with. The resolve is we are going to create deals that better America. Now, some of these deals I don't agree with, because while I want more manufacturing in the United States, not all manufacturing has to be in the United States. I don't mind a trade deficit, because I believe the economists who are of their salt prove that some trade deficits are of great value to us and import to us as a nation. We're better off because those countries that have a trade surplus don't seem to be as prosperous as we are. I think that you can say that. I think you should. I think it's okay. And I think it's very important for Trump to hear that too. Now, do I want Trump to be moving on creating these deals? Absolutely. We need to see what's in the deal, because talk of a deal is meaningless. You have to see what's in it. And then from that, we can judge and measure the efficacy. And other nations will then have to say, okay, this is what they're doing. I'm in line for that. I'm down for that. And the markets can say, oh, this is what we're getting. All right, let's get back to some positive territory here. The left's immediate hate for Trump is a Pavlovian response after years of screaming that whatever Trump does is terrible. To which Trump called his own shot during that joint session where he said, I could announce the cure to the worst diseases, and these Democrats won't clap their hands. They'll sit on their hands. Doesn't matter what Trump does, which is why, while their commentary should be noted from time to time for the insanity that they are preaching amongst themselves and how dangerous that is, for us, rational, normal folk, it should be dismissed. And we, rational, normal people, can recognize that some ideas are good and some ideas may not be as good and some ideas may just be lousy and some ideas might just suck. And we should be able to say so. And then go have a cigar and a bourbon and a steak. I don't know, maybe a yogurt parfait. What am I here to judge? And then we go back to it the next day and go over things and discuss things like normal people. This is not the time for idolatry. This is the time for getting things done. And if it ain't being done right, we should say so it gets done right. Because we're 2 months into this term. No, 3 months. Which means we only have 21 months left before the midterm. And we got to get everything we can. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. Children, what's going on? Is children the right word? How about Pookie? How about Shmoo? How about Boo Boo? How about Honey Boo Boo? Didn't one of the Honey Boo Boo people just pass away? You remember the show Honey Boo Boo? Was it that show? I forget what show it was. Yeah, I can't. Oh, who was that? All right, let us move on. I do like I do like the fact that we're moving forward on these taxes. But I better see some serious cuts. You can't say you're looking to do $1 trillion and then move yourself over and say, 4 billion. That is not gonna work at all. Can't have that. Let's see where we are with people in their reactions. Should I do the whole insider trading insanity thing? Yeah, I'll have to get to that. Let me see what I can do here. Got to go to the fancy board. Insider trading. Colorado. We will do Colorado. So in Colorado, they are not so focused on rights of parents, but are very focused on the most radical of concepts, which is somehow men can be women and children can decide their gender and you can't get involved. And if you do, we have the right to take your kid from you, throw you in jail. All this has been going on now. And we discussed it, some of this legislation that just passed their House last week. So I've got a new conversation of that I want to share with you. Of course, your comments on the Twitter X right there. I would appreciate those. And then don't forget, do I have imagery for this? No. I do not know if you have ever heard my cigar and bourbon show, Eat, Drink, Smoke. eatdrinksmokeshow.com. You should, like there, eatdrinksmokeshow.com. I know I put spaces in between. You should absolutely go download that. You should download that and subscribe to that and be a part of that. The cigar, the bourbons, the lifestyle stuff. It's love it. We avoid the politics. It's my escape from politics. It's heard on stations all across the country on weekends. eatdrinksmokeshow.com. Go be a part of that. Would greatly appreciate it. Now on to this Colorado story as the radio show comes back. Bring it in. Bring it on. Colorado has made the decision that they should tell California when it comes to wokeness, hold my course. Because there was this move to say that if a parent should object to a child wanting to change their gender, which of course cannot be done. This is a change of gender, change of sex. You are a man or you are a woman, and that is all. And everything else that can be seen as a subset based on some level of medical condition can be addressed as rare or mental illness. Gender dysphoria in the DSM-5 from the American Psychiatric Association. Tony Katz today, good to be with you. I don't believe we should feed into mental illness. Yet there are some who believe that not only should you feed into it, you should try and build upon it. You should try and incept kids with it, and then you should actively participate in their delusion. Translation, you should lie to them, lie to yourself, and lie to others. And I won't do that. Pronouns is one of those things, and that gets us to a pronoun story they'll get to in a little bit. What Colorado said is, well, if you don't go along with your kid's delusion, we could take your kid from you. And then at a school board meeting in Colorado, where there's concerns about boys using girls' bathrooms, claiming to be girls.
It was also brought up at the last board meeting about concerns with bathroom use with transgender students or individuals. And as I've, said countless times, so I am a certified offender therapist through the state of Colorado, through the Sex Offender Management Board. Been doing this for much longer than I would like, but about 17 years now, 18 years. And never, ever have I ever had a client, we've had hundreds, probably close to 1,000, plus any of my colleagues in the field that have ever had someone who identifies as transgender offend in a bathroom.
No one has ever broken into my house, but every night I lock the door. Your move. What arguments possibly are these people making? I'm thrilled that there have been no offenders. Why in the world would you create the opportunity? And why this kind of argument that somehow it's just about people who are violent? What about the very concept? I'm talking about acting out in a physical way as opposed to just the sheer raw act of intimidation, of humiliation. When these girls and women are forced to change with men and they don't want that in their lives. I've never had my house burglarized, but I always lock the door every night. That's my argument to this school board. All your training, you couldn't figure that one out? The problem with the expert class is their so-called training. I'm Tony Katz. Can't say that enough. The biggest problem with the expert class is they believe that because they've had some training, they know, and you haven't had the training, so you don't know. So you have to listen to them. Your training is the whole problem. The whole problem. Anyway, take a quick stretch. We're in the radio break. I'll be right back. right, I didn't grab a drink. I mean, I have a drink in my fine TK tumbler right there. Man, I really gotta get the store together. It's just one more thing. We're moving fast. We're breaking things. We're getting things done. We figured out the streaming part. Although I admit I keep looking at other people's streams and they've got this whole big set behind them, and I'm more locked in, and I wonder if that matters. Is that the look? Is there something to that which is more more like more appealing to the eye? That's what I'm curious about, because I have a cool studio. Like I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to open it all up, and like it'd be fun. Might do that. Anyway, glad that you are here. I have a bunch to get to. Oh my goodness, do I have a bunch to get to? Where do I have the Keir Starmer stuff? Okay, that's here. Got that. And then I've got that. Okay. Getting back to the show. This is an Oliva V, little torpedo action right there. Easy smoke. Works every time. This is not the Melanio. I'm more of a fan of the Melanio, but I think the V is an excellent cigar that should be an everyday in your humidor. It's better than a yard work cigar, but it worked perfectly for that purpose. You know, you're taking the dog for a long walk, something like that. The Robusto 5-inch or a little bit shorter. That'll work terrific for you. All right, here we go. Here we go. We're coming back. It's fascinating. Dow is down 18 right now. NASDAQ down over 1,000. The United Kingdom has decided it would like to be eliminated. I don't know, every couple hundred years, they just need to get their butts kicked, I guess. This time, it's them doing it to themselves through immigration policies that have allowed Islamists to not only take hold, but take charge. And it is Keir Starmer, who is the prime minister, who has decided that what we need to do is we need to have 16-year-olds voting.
We will definitely get it done. It's a manifesto commitment, and we intend to honour it. I think that if you're old enough to go out to work, if you're old enough to pay your taxes, then you are entitled to have a say on how your taxes are spent. And also we do have voting at a younger age in different parts of the United Kingdom, and the sky didn't fall in. It's a commitment we made. It's a commitment we intend to keep.
Let the 16-year-olds vote. Man, I should have really grabbed a bourbon. Tony Katz today. Guys, good to be here. Good to be with you. Reach out on the Twitter X at Tony Katz. You can email Tony at TonyKatz.com. And of course, 833-GOT-TONY, 833-468-8669. The extent to which the prime minister is wrong here cannot be fully explained without the use, of course, of dance. Interpretive dance is the only way to explain this to another human being. 16-year-olds are not capable at all of voting, because 16-year-olds, as we have decided in civil society, are not capable. Now, one could question even if an 18-year-old is capable, but we have decided that 18 is the age of majority. How can a nation that doesn't allow you to own a gun think that a 16-year-old can own the vote when the vote is far more dangerous than any firearm? What? Are we going to debate this? The vote is more dangerous than a firearm. I believe in the vote. I want the people to have the right to vote. I want them to have the opportunity to vote. I also want them to be able to protect and defend themselves. And you know what I want them to be able to protect and defend themselves? People who engage bad votes. You don't have the mind yet. And voting has very, very long-term consequences. We should be aware of this. If we were to place it in the United States parlance, can a 16-year-old get a tattoo? Can a 16-year-old have a cigarette? A cigar? If you told me there are 16-year-olds smoking cigars, I'd say, they shouldn't do that. They should be 18. There are some places like the United States where smoking means 21, which is, I think, it's more purchasing than anything else. Why? You can vote at 16, but you can't have a cigar until you're 21? Does Keir Starmer believe this? Well, Tony, as we know, cigars have a serious impact on your health. First of all, cigars, sure, can have an impact on health, but cigars are not cigarettes, which is the problem that takes place where these two are always conflated. You're not talking about an inhaled product. You're talking about something that doesn't have all of the fillers and all of the chemicals in it. And I can point you to studies, whether from the FDA or others, that show two premium cigars a day, nil health effects, NIL. But I, as a guy who enjoys sipping a good bourbon, can show you the effects of alcohol. Tell me, Keir Starmer, when will you eliminate the ability in the UK to have a pint? You want to allow, you really got to be able to make this decision. 21? Why not 16? You mean I can make a decision to eliminate the ability to have a pint in the UK, but I'm not old enough at 16 to have a pint in the UK. You brought up taxes. Now let's bring up everything. You don't trust these people to own a firearm. You trust them with the vote? You only want to endanger yourself. You only want to endanger your society. That is all that you want. Now, I can't tell you, not being an expert in UK politics, whether or not this is part of a move to try and get more voters because they're having problems. Remember, the Conservatives were in charge, right? It was Boris Johnson, and then it was Theresa May, Liz Truss. I'm actually losing track. UK prime ministers. Here's the list of UK prime ministers. I had to make sure I had this right. And let me scroll down to modern history. Oh, and there's Margaret Thatcher. Damn, girl, good work. And so recently you had Theresa May, right? And then that went from Theresa May to Boris Johnson. And then that went, because that ended in a debacle. You went to Liz Truss. And Liz Truss lasted for, I think 2 Scaramucci's. 50 days. She was the prime minister for 50 days. Then it went to Rishi Sunak, who was the prime minister for about 2 years. The Conservatives so screwed it up, from David Cameron to Theresa May to Boris Johnson to Liz Truss to Rishi Sunak, that the Liberals were able to take charge. That's how much the Conservatives messed it up. And after about an hour and a half of the Liberals being in charge, the Britons said, oh, God, that's right. These people stink. Here we are today in a nation that is failing. And for what reason in a failing nation would you say 16-year-olds can vote? That seems like a Band-Aid. Being placed on a giant sucking wound. Again, I say to you, and you might think that it's weird that I brought this up a couple times. This is about Prince William, soon to be King William, and whether or not he actually wants to be king of a kingdom. You're falling. You're failing. We're watching it happen in real time. You must take an active part. This is not the United Kingdom of grandma. And no, your father, for as much of a comeback story he is in the eyes of the people of Great Britain, is not meant for the hard times. William, it falls upon you. Because if you do not engage moral clarity with the people of Great Britain, it will never come down to your eldest son. There will be no kingdom. The kingdom will be filled with domes, specifically one on top of Buckingham Palace, and the call to prayer 5 times a day. What are you doing? What possibly could you be allowing here? Voting when you're 16? Why 16? Why not 14? Oh, well, Tony, don't be ridiculous. We, as a Western civilization, have made an argument that 18 is the age of adulthood, is the age of coming of age, the age of responsibility. Why would you change such a thing? If anything, the vote is so dangerous, we should move it up. It shouldn't be moved down. Voting is so dangerous to society that the voting age should be 40. Prove me wrong. I have got all day, and I am staring right now at my humidor, which at last count has carried the 1,000 cigars in it. I could sit here all day. I have got 2 cabinets filled with bourbon and rye. I can outlast. I have got provisions. Reducing the voting age is not the sign of a healthy society. It's a sign of a society that has clearly lost itself and its job. Part of a society's job, and the way you know a society is healthy, is how it engages not just with the elderly, but with children. Children need to be protected more often than not from themselves. And I talk about Colorado and how this school board thinks it's okay for boys to be in the girls' locker room or boys to be in the girls' bathroom or a boy to claim that they're a girl in general. Where is the protection of the child who clearly is confused? They don't want to protect children. They either want to abuse children or want to create the society where children can be abused. What? Again, I ask you, where am I making a mistake in the math? Cigars, bourbon. I don't have the grill on, but I could. There's the steaks right over there in the freezer. I could just throw them on, but they need to defrost. Oh, gosh. Maybe I can DoorDash some. The point is, I'm ready. Make your argument that somehow children should be trusted, that somehow the mark of a good, sound, decent society is to steal youth. Show me where that's the mark of a good society. To take children's youth away from them. To force responsibility on them that they are not ready for. To engage in subject matter that is only meant to confuse so you can then easily manipulate. Why are these people, these progressives, so desperate to take childhood away from children? The answer is they must want to, for some of the reasons I listed. And it is up to us to say no. And in the UK, if the people aren't going to have somebody to lead on the political side, then William, you're up. Whether Papa is still here or no. Or you ain't going to have a kingdom left. This is Tony Katz Today. I will tell you, producer Landon. So the market is down 4.3% right now, down 1,764 points. And the NASDAQ is down 5.4%, down 927 points. So yesterday it was up 3,000. Now it's down 1,700. So we're down more than half from yesterday. Okay. My Blue Heaven should be on any top 10 film list. You shouldn't be near all these frozen foods. You could melt all this stuff. That's not perfectly the line, but you can melt all this stuff was the line. Is maybe the best line. It's a vegetable. It's so good. And it's not only Steve Martin at possibly his best. Like a character I think he had thought about for 100 years, one way or another. I think it's Rick Moranis at his best. I think he's exceptional. Joan Cusack in everything is terrific. I just does she have the same awful politics as her brother, which is John Cusack? I hope not. Maybe she does. Oh, that would stink. I'll watch her in anything. Anything at all. So good. My Blue Heaven is so good. Such a good movie. Oh, God. We should have movie night. We should have movie night, I tell you. Oh, it's so good. And those should be the classics. What, we could rent out a theater. We could rent out a theater. Tony's Tony's Theater what? No, matinee is afternoon. I'm trying to get the alliteration. What are you doing, producer Landon? I'm going for something here. You interrupted me with nonsense hooey. God. Spaceballs is an excellent movie, but it's Rick Moranis is funny in that movie. And Rick Moranis, you know, going back to the days of Second City, Strange Brew, stuff like that. But just I'm sorry, the work in My Blue Heaven was harder comedy to pull off, especially when you're playing the straight man's never easy. Terrific stuff. Oh, movie night. I love it. Oh, we're coming back? Okay. I like coming back. It's worthwhile. Here we go. It's happening now. Just a quick public service announcement, because I am a man who gives. Whatever you do not look at your 401k.
Hey, old white men.
I understand. I get it. That makes perfect sense. Don't look at all or in any way, because you were going to think that everything was going to be fine. Everything was going to head back up and everything was going to be hunky dory. And that is just not the case. Tony Katz today. The Dow, at one point losing half the gains of yesterday when the Dow jumped back up because of the pause on tariffs, which is not so much a pause, which is what the market seems to be realizing. That's where they seem to be. Realize what's happening in front of you. It's a really important thing to do. This brings us to a story from the Associated Press. The headline: player salary still an issue as WNBA prepares for Monday's draft. The idea that the issue of compensation is still an issue is very odd, because they still want to compare the WNBA to the NBA, and it can't be done. A rookie like Caitlin Clark last season, her first year, she got $76,000. Yes, the number one pick of the NBA got $12.6 million. There's more money in the NBA. You can't force the money to go. Wait, maybe the NBA wants to do that, but you understand that that's not real life. The WNBA is still a different product. Now, some people would say, Tony, you meant inferior. And I'll say to you, I didn't say that. You said that. I would never say such a thing. But to the advertisers, absolutely, it's an inferior product, 1,000%. No question about it. Correct. If you want to negotiate for more TV revenue, the first thing you had to do was put a product on the floor that could garner a TV audience. Caitlin Clark really helped you do that. So, okay, go get a little more TV revenue. But it isn't comparable to the men. It's not comparable to the NBA. So could you stop it? Because that's not a pay disparity. That's a marketplace at work. And thank goodness it is. This is Tony Katz today. Speaking of people should be paid more, I'm right here. Let's go. Well, Tony, you're in Indianapolis based and you're not, Dallas based. So you can't be, no. Write daddy big checks. Right. By the way, in this conversation, I am daddy. And you might be one of the people writing big checks. As a matter of fact, I don't know why you're not writing me big checks right now. This is Steven. Steven was at Cambridge Fieldhouse. That's where the Indiana Pacers and the Indiana Fever play. The concert was Disturbed, Daughtry, and Nothing More. Okay. So Daughtry is Chris Daughtry. That's his name, right? He was the guy from American Idol and did not win American Idol. And it was very clear that that guy is an actual rock star. I don't understand why his career hasn't been bigger. I don't know why that has not grown. That dude is really good. I don't know if I'm going to see that bill, right? That bill doesn't move me. But glad you went. I'm curious to see where the economics is, whether or not these moves in the markets are going to have a real effect on people's spending patterns. There's reports that airlines are already seeing less travel for this summer. Changes being made. We will see how that plays out. Will people kind of bring themselves in and say, you know what? They'll look at a 401k maybe, right, psychologically, or they'll look at this, they'll look at a market, even though they're not necessarily dependent on the market, and the market is not necessarily a sign of the health of an economy, and say, we're not spending anything, we're not doing vacation, we're staying home, we're staying this, we're not spending on that, we're not going out to eat, we're not doing the other thing. As a matter of full disclosure, I made the decision 3 months ago. We weren't doing a summer vacation as a family. I've been skipping a lot of vacations. This is not where I want to spend my dollars. I've been concerned for a while, and I still am. I mean, I'm going to go visit my mom. I'm going to visit Diane, right? That's going to happen. But I'm talking about everybody in the truckster and a thing no, there'll be none of that. And I don't think I'm the only one making that decision. But is that real? Delta Airlines removed earnings guidance? Did they really? Oh, we're more right than I thought. Good gosh. Guys, we're going to take the radio shows in break, so we're going to be in break. Smoke them if you got them. And I mean that, of course, literally. We're going to take the break. Keep it right here. I'm Tony Katz. More show is coming up in a little bit. That's not the one I wanted. This is what I wanted. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Katz, that is me. What's up, Tony Katz today? That's the name of the show, and you are in the right spot. I don't know if you were asking. I was just telling you. I'm sending a text. Can I do that? Is that all right if I do that? Thank you, producer Landon. I appreciate that. So in the saddest news I could possibly give you, it's not really that sad. I'm not here tomorrow. I'm not here to, you know this, producer Landon. I am not here tomorrow. Andrew Langer will be filling in, but he does not do the live streaming. So sadly, we won't be here tomorrow, and I apologize for that. But with that said, I was going to take some time today to do the audio dump that I normally do on Friday and do it today. Because why should you go without a giant audio dump? That's my take. I don't think you should do without those things. Oh, and I've got some Representative Ocasio-Cortez, and I've got some Bernie, and I've got Make Showers Great Again. I got it all. All right, we're coming back to the show. We know we've got a radio show that we do here with this. It's called Tony Katz Today. It's heard across the country, growing every day. I'm glad you guys are here, and let the show begin. President Trump holding a cabinet meeting, as he has been known to do, as opposed to, well, Joe Biden. Wouldn't know how to hold a cabinet meeting. Tony Katz Today. Good to be with you. That's Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, speaking right there. Let's take it to him.
Part of the bill that we just got to vote on today.
Part of the bill. It'll be done and dusted for 2 years. We won't have to worry about that. And then I gave a speech yesterday to 1,400 small and community bankers, and they were so happy to hear from your administration. And I told them Wall Street's done great for the past 4 years. 10 years, 20 years, it can continue doing great, but it's Main Street's turn now, and it's those small bankers through deregulation, through emphasis on Main Street, your Main Street agenda, bringing back jobs, that is going to power the smaller communities. And then finally, the bond auction went very well yesterday. We had a lot of foreigners show up as the support, showing that the U.S. is still the best place to invest. The inflation report, as you said, was quite good. And energy prices are down more than 20% since January 20th.
Amazing. That's great. Good numbers.
Great number.
Thank you. Yeah.
President, we've had some great wins in the last few days.
That was Scott Bessent, the Attorney General, Pam Bondi.
By the biggest majority the U.S. Americans want you to be president because of your agenda. And the courts are ruling that you have the authority to determine how the money of this country will be spent. That's what the American citizens wanted, and that's what they're getting. An example of that Friday was the Department of Education, that you can determine how the money will be spent. No more DEI. And that impacts every agency across the board. On the civil side, again, NLRB. We had a big win in the Supreme Court there. OPM, a big win there. But also 16,000 workers there. But also on the criminal side, the Alien Enemies Act, we are winning there. And you know, your directive to me was to keep America safe, and that's what we're doing. Whether it's the alien enemies, all of these gangs, and they are enemies of our country. They are terrorists. They are organized crime. They have come here. They are extremely organized. They are spread throughout our country, and they are creating terror. And no more under your directive. And that has stopped. Yesterday in South Florida, we charged 11 defendants with $500 million of pure cocaine coming into our country to kill our kids. They were caught. They will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. These gang members are going back to where they came, or they're going to an El Salvador prison at your directive. And, you know, you also gave us a directive to prosecute the people who are going after Tesla to the fullest extent of the law, some of the greatest police work I've seen. We've made 4 arrests. There will be no negotiations at your directive. They're all looking at 20 years in prison. And within the next 24 hours, you're going to be seeing another huge arrest on a Tesla dealership, President. And that person will be looking at least 20 years in prison with no negotiations.
That's great. That will stop it. Cold. Thanks. Doing a great job, Jay. Thank you.
I don't know if it's going to stop it. These people are true believers and really nutters.
Accountability
I hope
matters.
it does.
That's what we're recognizing with our partners at the Department of
Move to now to Lori DeRemmer,
just a few
the
weeks ago,
labor secretary.
We realized there's about $4.4 billion in COVID funds that were not used, that the state coffers were just holding on to. Out of that, we've returned $1.4 billion back to the state treasury, so essentially to the American people, and we'll go back and claw the rest of those billions of dollars back. And on the heels of that, late last night, we're understanding unemployment insurance fraud. That trust needs to be whole for the American people. When we need it for who deserves it. That's not what we're seeing in the numbers that we saw last night, again, exposed by our partners at DOJ, at the Department of Labor. Since 2020, over $400 million of payments have gone out already. And when you hear these numbers, apparently in the United States, we have over almost 25,000 people who are over 115 years old, who are collecting $59 million that we have sent out to people. Talk about fraudulent behavior. Mr. President, 28,000 people between 1 and 5 years old have collected fraudulent payments at the tune of $254 million has gone out. And lastly, 10,000 people who have not been born yet, 15 years into the future, $69 million, and they haven't even been born yet. In one case, they will be born 129 years from now. The United States government sent them $41,000 and they're not born yet. So under the Department of Labor, those are the things that we're uncovering. I couldn't be more honored to tell the American people that we're bringing back their dollars and we're saving them. And
you're literally seeing other cabinet members shake their heads. And I don't think it's because, you know, some of this is a bit of performance art, right? For Trump and supportive of Trump. Oh, Mr. President, and your policy's this and you're that. I think some of them are like, I can't believe we do this. We always knew there was this abuse. We always knew there was this fraud, but holy cow, we didn't know this. This is terrible. Like, that's the kind of reaction you're seeing.
We're going to grow this economy. We're going to keep our focus on the American worker.
So you're finding tremendous fraud, though. Those numbers are really bad when you're
Unheard of.
over 115 years old. And I think you had mentioned the oldest person in our country is 114 years old. That's pretty good.
A woman living in Pennsylvania, but apparently there's 24,000 more of them that are 115 or older.
I hope you hear that. So we have 24,000 older than the oldest person.
Definitely did.
That's and what are we doing about that? How do we get that money back?
Yeah, so we're working with our IGs to do the further investigation. The House and Senate, we had a 5-year statute of limitations
We've got an extension on that, another 5 years. And so the goal, in my opinion, we should never have a statute of limitations to return the American dollars back to the Treasury when there's fraud. But at this point, we will continue to work hard and double down and return those dollars to the Treasury.
Great. Thank you very
Thank
much. Great job.
Joe Biden couldn't do this.
Oh, Mr. President,
Again,
thank you for your
all the
leadership
economic
report.
turmoil, and here's
Second
Trump
row.
still handling
You have
business. That is the
broken
purpose
record
here.
in the history of the
And,
nation.
and the visual he
for the lowest
really
number of
wants to provide,
encounters
and
at the border,
he's doing it well.
which is absolutely remarkable. You have said that America's laws matter and that they'll be enforced, and we're hard at work now to get people to go back home that are here illegally. So the Alien Registration Act has been in place long enough now that those individuals that are here illegally, if they haven't registered, then they can be charged criminally, and they can face fines up to $1,000 a day, and face deportation if they don't go home, and they'll never get the chance to come back to America. So we're encouraging people to use the CBP Home app to register, and we're working on the resources and funding to buy them a plane ticket to send them home. I went to El Salvador, Colombia, and Mexico, and those countries and others are thinking about setting up programs to support these individuals when they get back to their countries. So when they get there, they'll have housing and food assistance. And so making sure that these folks have the opportunity to go home so that they can get the chance to come back to America is important. And
So it's a very big self-deport operation that we're starting.
thousands of people have already
Yeah.
self-deported. Well, we're just going to, we got 21 million people that need to go home because they're here breaking our laws, then we need to facilitate that. And I've been working with the governors a lot lately on several different issues. One of them has been on FEMA for recommendations on how to do exactly what you've directed us to do. And then also I sent a letter and communicated with them that they need to be setting up a SCIF. Some of our governors don't have secure facilities to have national security issues. I think one of the jobs Homeland Security has is to give communication down to states, to local cities and communities. And so recommending they get a SCIF, they have secure comms with them at all times or nearby so that they can have national security conversations, and then to have somebody in their office designated that is their communications person. A lot of them have emergency.
I think people will see that as a rational thing to do. Yeah. If you're coordinating with governors, specifically border governors, although every state is a border state these days, and you want to be able to get them information and you want to make sure it's secure, you don't want to have one of those signal issues, you do that. That is something that people be like, well, that makes sense. Wait, we don't have that already? That's what's so weird about some of this stuff. We don't have that in some governor's mansion already in all 50 states? That seems nutty. There was something else that hit me as I'm looking at this imagery. There's Brooke Rollins at the end there, flanked between Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, and Sean Duffy, the Transportation Secretary. There's the Attorney General, Pam Bondi. There's the Labor Secretary, who I would not have confirmed, Lori DeRemmer. There's Kristi Noem, Secretary of Homeland Security. The question for Mark Cuban is this enough strong women for you? I was just curious. I don't know. This might not qualify to him as strong women, right? I was just curious. In a cabinet, if this was enough strong women having a conversation with the president of the United States. Don't know the answer.
Which is probably going to be 60 days. We're also going to work with farmers that if they have strong recommendations for their farms for certain people, we're going to let them stay in for a while and work with the farmers and then come back and go through a process, a legal process. But we have to take care of our farmers and hotels and, various places where they need the people.
Oh.
And we're going to be working with you very carefully on that. So a farmer will come in with a letter concerning certain people saying they're great, they're working hard. We're going to slow it down a little bit for them. And then we're going to ultimately bring them back. They'll go out, they're going to come back as legal workers. Okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Which I think will be I think it's very important to do. Okay, thank you very much. Great job. Jameson, and what you testified from this?
Yeah, he did great.
Over there, you're on every night at 3:00 in the morning. You did great. Fantastic. Thank you very much.
The cabinet meeting will continue. I'll bring you more of it. Here, I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz today.
you started a reordering of international trade.
That's a
something
radio
that hasn't
break.
happened
Keep
for
listening.
80
Yeah,
years.
fascinating. I
Something that
always
should have
love being
happened
able to
decades
bring
ago.
this to
And
you
you know
guys.
that. You've known that for a long time.
For a moment
That's
there,
why you
I
have us
thought I had
working
lost you
on
all. It was
this.
very scary for a second.
You came into an emergency situation where President Biden left us with a $1.2 trillion trade deficit. It's the largest of any country.
Oh, so the trade representative right here.
The largest.
Is that Ambassador
you declared
Greer?
emergency. You took
You
action.
say the largest in history, right?
In history.
There's never been anything like what he left us. He left us a mess. His whole administration was a mess. So go ahead.
So you declared an emergency, you imposed a trade action. So now you have a tariff on the world. It promotes U.S. manufacturing, it protects U.S. workers, and you've also given room for negotiation during this time so we can open export markets for our farmers and other producers and American workers. And this is why the unions vote for you. This is why the workers vote for you. This is why the families want you to be the president, because you're standing up for American workers and American communities. We've had countries come in over the past couple of weeks that represent more than half of global domestic GDP, more than half. That's who's coming in to talk to you and to your advisors about how to have reciprocal trade, how to have fair trade. Wouldn't have happened without you.
Thank you very much. Great job. Lovely live.
Well, thanks to your fantastic leadership, this amazing cabinet,
It's
the very
Elon.
talented Doge team, I'm excited to announce that we anticipate savings in FY26 from reduction of waste and fraud by $150 billion. And I mean, and some of it is just absurd, like people getting unemployment insurance who haven't been born yet. I mean, I think anyone can appreciate whether, I mean, come on, that's just crazy. So, you know, some of these things, people ask me like, well, how are you going to find waste and fraud in the government? I'm like, well, actually just go in any direction. That's how you find it. It's very common. it's as the military would say, target rich environment. So I think we're doing a lot of good in excellent collaboration with the cabinet to achieve these savings. And it will actually result in better services for the American people. And then we're going to be spending their tax dollars in a way that is sensible and fair and good.
And your people are fantastic. In fact, hopefully they'll stay around for the long haul. We'd like to keep as many as we can. They're great, smart, sharp, right? Finding things that nobody would have thought of. Very computer savvy.
Yes. We're working hard to get that.
Yeah, Jameson Greer is the
hopefully in the next week or so.
Is the trade representative, is he not?
Really? That's a pathway to citizenship into the United States. It's
a big deal.
Yeah, the USTR.
Big deal. Thank you very much. Great job you're doing.
Thank you, sir. Thanks to your leadership and setting the mandate of transparency and accountability across the U.S. government. I'm bringing that transparency and accountability to the intelligence community, first and foremost, to make sure that you and your cabinet have that real-time, relevant, apolitical, objective intelligence to best inform whether it's negotiations for peace, negotiations around tariffs, the great work that you are leading around the cabinet today.
30
Secondly,
seconds,
working
guys.
with
We're coming
Department
back
of
to the
Homeland
show.
Security and the FBI to increase our information sharing to achieve your goal.
Hope you don't mind me sharing this
countering
with you.
the narcotic trafficking.
I wanna know what's going on.
Our ability to go after cartels now
Helps us
designated
understand
as foreign
things as they
terrorists.
go forward.
I met with the National Sheriff's Association this week, being able to work to make sure that the information that they are getting on the ground, that local law
I'll get back to the
enforcement
radio
is getting
show.
on the
Glad you
ground
guys are here.
is being fed back up through to our National Counterterrorism Center.
That's right,
and that we have
Tulsi.
all of the
I'm
federal
bigger than you.
agencies, state and local law enforcement, all on the same page as we are working to make our country safe again. And lastly, sir, as you know, declassification.
Cabinet meeting continues. President Trump assembling the full cabinet. Been hearing about where the waste is. Elon Musk spoke just moments ago saying that so far for fiscal year 26, and remember that the government calendar works differently than ours. They are an October to September calendar. That's when their fiscal year 26 will start, October 1. And so far they have found $150 billion worth of waste, fraud, and abuse that they are dealing with. Tony Katz, that's me. Tony Katz today. I am not a beneficiary of any waste, fraud, and abuse. Turns out I actually have to work for a living. It's savagery But yet somehow it's happening. I would claim anti-Semitism, but it turns out this is just usually the way it is. You gotta actually get out there and do the work. Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, speaking right now. Let's take it to her in this cabinet meeting as it continues around the horn.
Those ready to release here within the next few days.
That's great. Bobby, how do you feel about that? That's hitting,
I'm very gratified to hear.
That's hitting close to home, isn't it?
Yeah, no
When you
kidding.
think, I'm thinking about Bobby when that statement's made.
I'm very grateful to you, Mr. President.
And you'll let Bobby see some of this because, it's very personal stuff.
JFK files, RFK files.
I've asked him, and his response is, put it out. The world needs to know the truth.
And his uncle that's been out and anything that hasn't been out, they can go to your offices and see, right?
Everything that we have within our possession, it's either online or it's physically at the National Archives and Records Agency. We also have hunters going out, Mr. President, and looking in the storage lockers at FBI and CIA and other agencies, specifically to find if there is anything else that has not been reported. We're actively going out and trying to search out the truth.
Okay. Yeah, we want to get it all out.
Yes.
100% good. Thank
Well,
you.
for the
very much.
transparency claim, people, they're going to love that.
Mr. President, on behalf of America's manufacturers, I want to thank you for standing up to the Chinese Communist Party and fighting for our main streets, for our workers, and for those that make things in America. I'm out on a Made in America manufacturing tour, and as I go across the country, people are grateful to have a president who's not just fighting on the tariffs fronts, but to get inflation down, to create jobs. After Biden destroyed 110,000 manufacturing jobs in just his last year, you've already brought back thousands and thousands of manufacturing jobs.
Kelly Loeffler, a former senator from Georgia and now director of the Small Business Administration.
At the agency level, we're making sure that manufacturers have access to the capital they need, but we can't do that if we're not fighting fraud. So we've modified our loan applications to have citizenship verification, to make sure we have birth dates, common sense principles around lending that the Biden administration had waived. They waived $450 million of fees in 1 year. We're restoring that for the American taxpayer. And the American taxpayer, as tax day approaches, April 15th, they need to know that this cabinet, this administration, and thank you, Elon Musk and Doge, for fighting for the American taxpayer to make sure that their hard-earned dollars are well spent, that they have a return on investment for this country, and that we're fighting for them just as you are every single day. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, we are working at HHS to advance your agenda to make America healthy again. I'm working with Lee Zeldin to reassess the fluoride rules based upon the August release by the National Toxicity Program of new science that shows a direct inverse correlation between exposure to fluoride and IQ loss, particularly in children. Lee and I were in Utah this week, to announce that Utah became the first state in the country to ban supplemental fluoride. I'm working with Brooke on and governors now in 24 states who are advancing MAHA legislation to get soda pops off of the food stamp program, off the SNAP program. We've launched Operation Stork Speed to get the bad chemicals out of baby formula. We're working with governors across the country to get good food into the school lunch programs and to get rid of food chemical dyes and other bad chemicals that are in our food. We've shown now that this directly affects academic performance, violence in the schools, and mental health, as well as physical health. We are working with governors across the country to get cell-to-cell or bell-to-bell legislation to restrict the use of cell phones in schools, which again dramatically impacts academic performance. Today we announced a dramatic reduction in animal testing at NIH and FDA. We're going to switch over to AI, which we've now found is much more precise in identifying the impacts of toxics in various products. We're working with Elon, who's done an incredible job to eliminate the redundancies and to streamline operations at all the health agencies and to recalibrate our trajectory to your agenda of making America healthy again. And finally, on the CDC has done an amazing job at getting the measles outbreak under control. We have about 680 cases now in 22 states, compared to the same outbreak in Europe, which is 127,000 cases and 37 deaths. Our numbers in this country have now plateaued. And I want to thank CDC for that. And we're trying to refocus the press. We've had 3 measles deaths in this country over 20 years. And we're trying to refocus the press to get them to pay attention to the chronic disease epidemic as you've asked us to. We have now 38% of American youth are pre-diabetic. This was unknown 30 years ago. Every child that becomes diabetic, there should be a headline about them. We have 100 million adults who are pre-diabetic or diabetic. And we have, we have now the autism rates have gone from now most recent numbers we think are going to be about 1 in 31, 1 in 12. So they're going.
That is why people like Robert Kennedy. That breakdown, that boom, 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 boom. You want to report? This is everything I'm doing. That's what 77 million people voted for right there. That was impressive. Keep it here. This is Tony Katz today. That is, listen, I would not have confirmed him, but I wanted him to do these things. If he's going to stay focused, dear Lord, that is an insane report. That is a lot of detail. And I don't recall that from any Biden cabinet meetings.
That's a horrible statistic, isn't it? And there's got to be something artificial out there that's doing this. So you think you're going to have a pretty good idea, huh?
We will know by September.
No, there will be no bigger news conference than that. So that's it. If you can come up with that answer where you stop taking something, you stop eating something, or maybe it's a shot, but something's causing it. It can't be from 10,000 to, can you imagine that, Marco? That's a big number. Thank you very much. You're doing great. Thank you, Bobby. Please.
Well, Mr. President, one of your primary administration goals is to make sure that we unleash American energy. And of course, the strategy behind that is when we do that, it helps make it more affordable for all Americans. Energy isn't just industry.
That's
it is
Doug
the
Burgum.
foundation of every other industry, whether it's food, manufacturing, clothing, transportation. And then also when we've got the ability to generate and not just be energy independent, but energy dominant, then we have the opportunity to sell energy to our friends and allies versus them buy it from our adversaries. And our adversaries were funding terrorism and conflicts against our allies by their oil and gas sales that were going through a Swiss cheese set of sanctions. So with your creation of the National Energy Dominance Council, over half the people at this table serve on that. Everyone has been engaged, whether it's interactions with negotiations with other countries, with putting sanctions in place that actually work, with cutting deregulation, working on biofuels, building infrastructure for transportation. There's a whole range of things that are being tackled. But when in the outcome of all that is that the Biden administration was restricting supply, you're increasing supply. When you increase supply, then prices start to come down. And we have a huge opportunity to do this. Just in interior alone, there's 500 million acres of surface, 700 million acres of subsurface, and 2.5 billion acres of offshore. And the Biden administration was trying to restrict this so that you couldn't get the timber lease, you couldn't cut a tree, you couldn't graze a cow. You couldn't develop oil and gas minerals, and you couldn't develop the critical minerals we need for our technology, for our defense industries, and to be able to help us win the AI arms race against China. So we're opening up this, and with your executive orders and your work, we've on Tuesday, a historic day, you ended the war on beautiful clean coal, which has been going on since Obama took office. China gets 60% of their electricity from coal. They're opening up they've opened up 94 gigawatts of coal in the last year as part of this AI arms race. 94 gigawatts, that's enough for 94 Denvers to be able to, 1 gigawatt per metro area like that.
I'm not kidding.
It's
This is
unheard of. So
unbelievable.
we have an opportunity under your leadership to come back. The Gulf of America had its first offshore lease sale, which is scheduled for later this year. But that was the industry loved that because we're now, the Gulf of America is now open for business again. And there's as much as 7 billion barrels of oil accessible now. They've increased the upside of what they think that is. On the coal front, the estimate is the financial value of the coal in America is $8 trillion. That was an asset on the balance sheet
Coming back,
now being put back
because we're gonna get to Marco Rubio next,
Alaska with your
and that I want to hear.
To unleash Alaska energy between ANWR, the North Slope, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve Alaska, all of those we've reversed Biden decision. Those are all open for business again, and all of this is leading to the investment coming to America.
The cabinet meeting continues. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Doug Burgum, Secretary of the Interior, talking about the oil leases, the first oil lease sold in the Gulf of America. Gulf of America, it's still so great. And the amount of opportunities, whether it be coal, whether it be energy, engaging energy dominance, as President Trump talks about it. Tony Katz today. I want to get back to the cabinet meeting because the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, is speaking, and there's a lot going on in the world.
In a proper way. For 31 years, more than 31 years now, multiple administrations have allowed the Chinese to deindustrialize this country, to take away jobs and factories and pillars of our national strength. And what you're doing now, I think, is a great service to our country, but ultimately to the world. And I want to congratulate you and your team that's working on that, because it has extraordinary geopolitical implications, as you see from all these other countries that are now coming here and wanting to join something that actually makes it's crazy to allow these. I mean, basically, we lived in a world where Chinese companies can do whatever they want in America, but our companies cannot do anything over there unless they allow it. And even then they steal our stuff and reverse engineer it. So just reordering all of that has dramatic implications on peace and security of the world. So we thank you. An important meeting, thanks to you, is going to happen on Saturday for the first time in a long time. There'll be direct talks between Ambassador Woodcock and a top-level leader in Iran. We hope that'll lead to peace. You've been very clear what Iran is never going to have is a nuclear weapon. And I think that's what led to this meeting, and we'll wait for him to come back from it. And we're hopeful about that. I would also say that we are receiving, and I think the Department of Homeland Security can confirm this, historic cooperation from countries all over the world. Number one, in taking back their citizens. Every country in the world has to take back people that are illegally in another country. And we have countries that refuse to do it or will kind of ignore our calls. All of them are doing it. The ones that are not are paying a price. And we've also found cooperation in other countries that are willing to take some of these people, some very dangerous criminals. I know the president of El Salvador will be here next week, has really been a good friend of the United States in that regard. These are some of the worst people you'll ever encounter. And Pam knows this, and Christy knows this from the work they're doing. And one last point I want to make, Mr. President, and again, it's under your leadership, it's actually under your executive order. If you come to this country as a student, we expect you to go to class and study and get a degree. If you come here to vandalize a library, take over a campus, do all kinds of crazy things, we're going to get rid of these people, and we're going to continue to do it. So when we identify lunatics like these, we take away their student visa. No one's entitled to a student visa. The press covers student visas like there's some sort of birthright. No, a student visa is like me inviting you into my home. If you come into my home and put all kinds of crap on my couch, I'm going to kick you out of my house. And so, that's what we're doing with our country, thanks to the president. And last but not least, very important development.
Love it.
Both Pam and I are very excited. The finest higher education institution in the United States, University of Florida, is also now the national champions in basketball. And we hope you'll host them here soon, Mr. President. Go Gators.
They're coming. They're coming, guys.
Well, that was just gratuitous, Marco. That was just not okay.
Any question?
Mr. President, can you give us a reaction to today's stock market drop, and also give us a sense of the next steps with China?
Well, I haven't seen it because I've been here for 2.5 hours, so I'll be seeing it. I think Scott you want to have a statement on that?
Sure. Look,
Turn into Scott Besson, Treasury Secretary.
Up 10, down 5. And I think as we have talked about, and as we go through the queue and settle with these countries who are going to bring us their best offers, we will end up in a place of great certainty over the next 90 days on tariffs. But we had very good inflation numbers today. Oil's down. We had a successful bond market. So I don't see anything unusual today.
And next steps for China, sir?
Well, we'll see what happens with China. We would love to be able to work a deal. They've really taken advantage of our country for a long period of time. They've ripped us off beyond nobody. How people stood for it, sitting in my position, is not even believable. And we're talking about many presidents, not just a couple. But they did, and all we're doing is putting it back in shape. We're resetting the table. And I'm sure that we'll be able to get along very well. I have great respect for President Xi. He's been, in a true sense, he's been a friend of mine for a long period of time. And I think that we'll end up working out something that's very good for both countries. I look forward to it.
Mr. President, China retaliated today by reducing the number of American films that can be shown there. What's your reaction to them now targeting cultural exports from the United States?
I think I've heard of worse things. Yes, please.
Also on China, the Ukrainians say they have evidence that Chinese soldiers have been found fighting for the Russians in Ukraine. Can the US verify this? And if so, what does the US plan on doing to China to counteract that?
We'll look into it, but I think beyond that, we're really looking to get that war stopped. They're losing 2,500 and even more than that young people a week. They're Russian and they're Ukrainian. They're not American, but they're people. And we're seeing if we can get it stopped. And I think we're making progress. I appreciate the ballerina who was released. It was at the request of a very good friend of all of ours, actually. Dana White called me and he said it's the friend or the relationship of one of the fighters for UFC or one of the fighters. And Dana's an incredible guy, and we spoke to President Putin about it, and they made a deal. They released the young ballerina.
It's good to see hostages being returned, but Secretary Rubio's point about the student visas goes to something we discussed earlier, which is the idea of what is it that we're actually paying attention to? Where is our focus? Do we allow ourselves these levels of distraction that we used to so easily be distracted by? And this is about narrative, setting the narrative, setting the conversation. No one is entitled to a student visa. There was a story, I think it was in the Wall Street Journal, about how colleges, the students are concerned and student visas are being pulled and they don't know what to do. The university set is under the belief that they should be able to engage in profit at the expense of the rest of us. That is not a market. That is not a rational thought. Secretary Rubio's argument, his point, it's not even an argument, a statement of just clear fact. You are not entitled to a student visa. That is true. You're a guest and you got to follow the rules and you have to act a certain way. And if you don't act a certain way, bye, Felicia, you got to go. Part of the issue can actually be traced back to Obamacare. The idea that you could stay on your parents' insurance until you're 26, if you were around for those conversations, meaning, you know, politically astute in engaging in conversation, what you would see was people saying, well, is this smart? Is this right? Is this valuable? Is this anything? Does this make sense? And the answer is no. Doesn't make sense. Absolutely not. Because what we're doing is we're expanding this idea of childhood or adolescence. We're preventing going out into the world and making your way. We are resisting the need for adulthood. As much as we should be protecting children as children, we need to be telling these kids when they become adults, you have to act like adults now. You have to do adult things now. You have to take care of yourself now. You have to be able to provide for yourself now. Extremely important. And the idea of keeping someone on your insurance until they're 26 was a real slap in the face to that. This concept has been morphed into this idea that the college student is somehow a child. But the college student isn't a child. The college student is an adult. And I can prove this by explaining power of attorney. I only hope that if you have a college-age student, that you have hopefully a good relationship with your kid in college, but the kind of relationship where you have the setup for power of attorney. If your 19-year-old gets injured, harmed, has a serious medical issue, who makes the decisions? We set this up, it should be done about now, setting this up for our family. That if something should happen in this way, you want to be able to provide the best care for your kid possible. The need for the power of attorney is predicated on the idea that they're an adult. They're over the age of 18. You need the legal framework, the legal documentation in order to do this. But yet somehow the university decides that this child who has all of their rights because they're over 18 somehow is still a child. And so what we create is this weirdo limbo. Am I a kid? Am I an adult? Whatever. Don't get me wrong. We parents would say that you're learning and you're growing and you're going to make mistakes, right? These things are all true. But an adult, less protections, more in the world on your own, having to figure out how to deal with people, having to figure out how to make decisions, job decisions, life decisions. The university thinks that somehow there should be this full protection, that if you're in the university, you're somehow the special protected class. No. And this is the same thing that's true at Columbia with this terrorist sympathizer, Mahmoud Khalil. Of course, deport him. You're supporting a terrorist organization that we in the United States have deemed a terrorist organization. You're preventing students from engaging in activities on campus. You're engaging in threatening activity, menacing activity. You're not a citizen. We're not just going to throw you in jail. You have to leave. And if you don't want to leave on your own, we've got airplanes and parachutes. So this student visa conversation, outrageously important. And I'm glad the secretary is having it. More is coming up. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Yeah, saw that I think a Dragon was asking the question there, Libertarian Dragon. Hope that troll got booted. Yeah, we had a bunch of them come through. And so, whoop, whatever. I guess that means we're getting more popular. The more trolls, the more popular you are. I'm assuming that's the math. Let's take it to President Trump.
Tariff, is that a basement? Is that the
It's a baseline.
Can countries negotiate that to bring that?
It depends on what they're adding. You know, some countries we have massive.
Let's talk about the
deficits
10%
they have big
baseline tariff.
And others, it's not that way. So it depends. That's why it's really they're all different. Every country is different. Some have certain advantages that others don't have, and certain things. We have China has a surplus of $1 trillion. I mean, the numbers are crazy, and others have basically no surpluses. You know, we have some that are pretty even, but they hurt us in other ways, and we just want to get that taken care of. So everyone is a little bit different.
So are you negotiating with the EU as one bloc or individual nations for the tariffs?
We're looking at it as one bloc. They've been very tough, but they were very smart They were ready to announce retaliation. And then they heard about what we did with respect to China and others, but China. And they said, we're going to hold back a little bit. They decided to hold back. I thought they were very smart. Look, the EU is very smart, but they really have taken advantage of the United States. They were formed for the purpose of taking advantage of the United States. And I don't blame them, and I don't blame China. I don't blame anybody. I blame the people that were sitting at that desk in that other beautiful Oval Office for allowing it to happen. Many presidents I blame.
He's right about that as well. There was a statement from Tulsi Gabbard that I want to bring you that we missed, where she stated that one of the things that she is investigating is issues regarding voting impropriety. I want to make sure I heard this right. That she's saying that there is it proof of is it proof of voter fraud? I don't think that's what she's saying. Give me a second here. Let me see if I can get this to you right here. Let's see if I can do this right here. Let me.
Evidence of how these electronic voting systems have been vulnerable to hackers for a very long time and vulnerable to exploitation to manipulate the results of the votes being cast, which further drives forward your mandate to bring about paper ballots across the country so that voters can have faith in the integrity of our elections.
So is she arguing that there's proof of voter fraud, or is she saying we're looking into this to ensure no voter fraud? I'm not sure which way she's saying that right there, but count me in for wanting the information. Absolutely, count me in for that. I would like to know, just like everybody would like to know. Let's see. Let's go to a couple more questions here if we could.
U.S. Steel is going to do very well now because of tariffs. And I don't know why they even need a deal. But the only thing is U.S. Steel, if you go back 80 or 90 years, that was a behemoth in this. That was our biggest, most, if we were around, we would have been very proud of it. Today we have different types of companies that are big.
Step out
Google,
from the
it's not the
presser
same
and get
as
into
US Steel, and I love
some other stuff
you,
really
Google.
quick. Really appreciate you guys being here, Tony Katz today. I was happy to be able to cover that. There was a lot there. Tremendous amount there. Ah, yes. Representative Ocasio-Cortez concerned about insider trading.
Trump seems to be doing, from tweeting people to buy stock and then later announcing his development on taxes. If people are pissed about insider trading here at the House, look at what's happening at the White House right now and with the Republican Party.
Do you think he knew what he was doing when he sent out that message about stocks before he made the announcement?
It sure seemed like he did. I don't think that it was a coincidence. I don't think that Trump just coincidentally said buy stocks and then shortly later made an announcement that dramatically inflated and dramatically raised a lot of these asset prices.
This was the new argument. This is the new hotness, right? Egg prices are so yesterday. Now it's Trump's guilty of insider trading because he sent out a tweet read by all of the world that said buy stocks. Senator John Kennedy said of Representative Ocasio-Cortez yesterday, the day before, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is the reason there are instructions on the shampoo bottle. He should have Secret Service protection. The good Secret Service protection. That man is a national treasure. But this is the new hotness. Claim that the Trump administration is guilty of insider trading. Speaker Nancy Pelosi, we want to talk about insider trading, Representative Ocasio-Cortez, and so we will. Nancy Pelosi has outperformed, it was the Dow, right? She's outperformed everything, everywhere. I mean, that's super impressive. She's outperformed all the hedge funds. She's outperformed everybody. I wonder how Nancy Pelosi did that. The mind just can't grasp the possibilities. But wait, there are some. I don't know how you can claim insider trading regarding a tweet that is public, and today seeing the markets down by over 1,000 points at multiple times during the day. Well, they bought in, and then now they're the ones who dumped in. They made a quick little pump and dump there thanks to President Trump. Maybe some of his friends did. And maybe millions of other Americans did too. Maybe they didn't. I don't know. I didn't look into their finances. I didn't check. But when you are desperate, you'll do anything. When you're desperate to make one more claim. And this is why 2026 is so important. Because this desperation, if they should get back control of the House, they will impeach again. They don't need facts. They don't need the story. They just need the power to do what they do. This is Tony Katz today. It's special. It is special stuff. And yes, I agree. Senator Kennedy is a gift. And I could do it the more you know with Senator Kennedy. We could do a whole thing. We could put that all together right there. So special. I appreciate you guys being here. So much is going on. And first, can I suggest to you that you get your Von Riest watch right away? That's the Munchner. That is the mechanical Swiss movement, a variety of different color dials, right? You can get one that fits your personality. This is the black on black right here. Actually, it's supposed to be the black and gold for Purdue, because I'm an Indiana guy. So that's why I got this one. Many others. Go to Von Riest, RIESTE, vonriest.com, and get yours and use promo code KATZ, KATZ. Get your discount. Incredible people. Thrilled to be their brand ambassador and sharing the story about them and this family, these two brothers, honoring their heritage through this watch making collaboration that they've done, and the timepieces, the connection to the Midwest, and it's why I'm a part of it. It's just absolutely fantastic. Von Riest, RIESTE, vonriest.com, and you will get your discount by putting in promo code KATZ, KATZ. Yeah, I am out tomorrow. Some things that must be handled. Andrew Langer will be sitting in the chair. We won't be live streaming, so I apologize for that. But I'm back on Monday, and all will be good. I appreciate you guys being here. Don't forget to follow on the Twitter X there. That's Tony Katz on the Twitter X. Of course, you can find everything at TonyKatz.com if you would. And ticket sales end in like a day or two for Trump American Reset in 3 bourbons. The bourbon, the cigars, the everything. We're going to take a look back at Trump's first 100 days, the cool stuff, crazy stuff, insane stuff, media reaction. How does this impact the next 4 years? Which is, of course, a real question. We're going to take a look at all of it, and we're going to laugh. We're going to have a great time. Incredible, incredible food, and great sponsors like Laser Precision Marksmanship Club, laserpmc.com. Learn how to shoot the right way. No judgment, just training with these incredible video boards. So you're fully interactive, right? You're able to engage with the target. You're able to engage in scenarios. So you know how to be best prepared and how to ensure you're actually protecting people as opposed to just doing more harm. Laser Precision Marksmanship Club, incredible, incredible people. laserpmc.com. Terrific. You gotta check it out. It's really an incredible thing. And if you're at the event, they're gonna be there with their simulator. Oh yeah, it's gonna be very, very cool. I appreciate you guys being here. Can't thank you enough. I am back on Monday. That is going to happen, but be sure to subscribe over there on the YouTubes and get everything. And of course, TonyKatz.com. Would love to have you there as well. I'll catch you Monday, everybody. Be good. Take care.